if anybody saw my post in the Facebook group, but I was trying to think of what the heck to talk about this week. We've had a couple of weeks of talking about best practice and, different sort of day-to-day realtor stuff that you should be doing and should have some insight on. And I kept coming back to like, this has been a really rough market for any agent. Charlie was talking today about how this market is humbling and how it can be kind of deceiving. And, there's so much more working against you in some ways, especially when you're working with buyers in this market. And when you're new, I feel like it's more likely that you're going to have buyer clients, but it's not the only way. And so there's a lot of challenges, no matter what the market is, when you're new. So I started digging around to get some more info from my own experience, from coaches, from other agents about what is it that people don't do when they get into this business that ends up causing them to fail? What is it that people should be doing that they don't think about? Ultimately, what should you be focusing on and putting your time and energy into? What should you be doing as a new agent and also just as an agent? But the statistic is pretty scary, but it's motivating. There's 87% of new agents don't make it in the first 5 years. 87%. That's a lot of freaking people who jump into this business. However, we have all of the tools in place to ensure that you are that 13% that does. And we've had some great success with our launch agents. We have a nice percentage of the business of this market center is coming from you. So you're doing the work. People are finding business. They're making it happen. They're closing transactions with happy clients. It is doable, but it's really overwhelming to figure out where the heck to focus your time and energy when you're new. Would you agree? Yeah, it's just a lot. So I'm going to go through some things, kind of surface level, just to give you a little bit more perspective and kind of help redirect your energy and give you some things to think about. And I think these are things we have gone in depth more in some of the past launch classes, and we will in upcoming classes. But I thought it would be good to just kind of get it all together in one place again as a refresher and as a refocus. And I, as we go along, we can kind of pop on into different examples or get your feedback on these things. But I essentially broke it down to basically 6 things that you should be doing as a new agent, and really just as an agent in general, that will ensure your success. And it does not matter the market. When Charlie was talking this morning, he said, great markets don't last, great agents do. And it's really about how you do business. It's not about what the market's doing. The market changes all the time. It's good or bad, one way or the other for somebody and not good for somebody else. And at the end of the day, you're here to do your job. There's always people that need to buy and sell homes. There's always business to be had. So whatever the market's doing is not an excuse or a reason why business should be better. At the end of the day, you should be a great agent. And it's not about having a great year. It's about having a great career. So this is you building the foundation of your business and not just doing this as like a side gig. So I came up with 6 things that kind of encompass a few other items. If you look at stuff online, if you watch YouTube videos or listen to podcasts, there's all kinds of different thoughts on what causes new agents to fail or succeed in their first few years. So these are the ones that we're going to touch on today. Mindset, which we've talked about a lot in launch, and I come back to time and again because it's so important. And it's something that I constantly have to revisit myself, even this many years into the business, even with this much business. It's something that you have to do routinely. You brush your teeth every day, you take a shower, you wear deodorant, like these things have to happen every day. You can't just be like, I had a real good shower, I'm good for a year and nothing's going to change. I'm not going to get smelly and people won't want to be around me. Like, you have to do these things regularly, get yourself on track, keep in touch with yourself, see how you're doing. So mindset's huge. The other thing is schedule and routines, which is another thing that we talk about a lot and something that I'm constantly trying to improve upon. Again, this is not something you set and forget. It's something you get in place and then come back to it once in a while, see how you're doing. Another thing is goals and tracking. So I can't tell you how many people I talk to in this business, and I ask them what their goals are for the year, and they don't have one. And moreover, I ask them where they are at this point in the year. How many transactions have you closed? How many clients do you have active? How many are under contract? Where are you versus the goal you had for this quarter, this month, this year? And they have no idea. That's not good. That's not how people run businesses that are successful. So goals and tracking is the third one. Accountability is the fourth one. It's a bit of a personal plug because I'm supposed to be your accountability coach. But man, does that make a difference. And it doesn't have to come from me, but having accountability ties into that goals and tracking. So you can kind of make those one thing if you wanted to have 5 items. The next one is role models, which I think is something people don't always talk about, but it's really important. And these can be people who you intentionally connect with and they know they're your role model, or it could be people you find online or, listen to, or books you read. Those people can be role models too. They don't have to be someone you know personally. And the last one is marketing. This is a business where we market ourselves, we market property, we market what we're looking for. But at the end of the day, what you are selling is you. It's the service you offer. It's how you take care of people. It's the real estate agent of choice is you. That's really what you're selling first and foremost. So marketing is really important. So we're going to touch on all these things today. And then, if there's more interest or people have some thoughts on this that could take this more in depth, I think we'll continue to talk about these things into future classes and have in past classes. So don't forget about our great YouTube channel. We have a whole playlist just for launch. So talking about mindset, there's a number of things that I think are especially challenging when you're a new agent. One of them I thought was really interesting. It was brought up by Tom Ferry. He's a coach. He's a national real estate coach. He comes from a long family line of real estate coaches. He's a real energetic dude, but he has some good, a good podcast and some good YouTube videos out there. And something he said really struck me. And I come across this every once in a while, and I didn't even consider it when I was new, because when I decide I'm going to do something, I am in it 110%. Like, there's no question it's happening. But there is that question of whether you as a new agent are interested or committed. Committed is what is necessary to find success in this business. If you are just interested, you like houses, you like people, you think this will be fun, you can probably swing it part-time. That is not the key to success. You really have to be committed to making this happen. You have to be tenacious. You have to be dedicated. You have to have grit. You've got to keep pushing, right? Those days when you're like, how do I even get clients? How do I even get business? COVID this and what the market's doing that. And I don't know where to begin. I'm just going to crumple up in a ball on the floor. No, you have to be committed. If you decided you're going to do this, you paid to get your license, you studied for the test, you bothered to take the time to get all this going, like, be committed to making it happen. That's really important. Just being interested is not enough. Another thing that comes up a lot, and I don't think this is just for new agents, I think this is something that pops in my head every once in a while, is the fear of making mistakes and looking bad. The fear of making mistakes and looking bad, especially when you're new, right? There's such a fear that people are going to think, oh, you're obviously new, you don't know what you're doing. Or, oh, this person, like, I am mortified by what they're doing in their showings. They don't know what they're doing. This is my biggest investment. How could I possibly trust this person? There's this fear that they're going to like figure out that you're a fraud, right? Like you're new and you're just figuring it out. And oh my gosh, this is terrible. Also, what are other agents going to think of me? What are agents in my office going to think of me? What if I have to talk to another agent and write an offer? They're going to think I'm an idiot. Oh my gosh, right? Like that's such a wall. It's not just true for new agents. There are always times when you're going to hit this wall. There are always times when you're going to question if you belong, if you earned your place, if you should be working in luxury market, if you know anything about condos, if you should really have any business doing business with this client who wants to buy $1 million house. At the end of the day, we are going to make mistakes. Everybody does. The key is that you're learning from them, right? Like if you're putting together marketing material, don't just say like, well, I might make a mistake. Like have somebody look at it, make some effort. But at the end of the day, you're going to do some things. You're going to make your best effort to be diligent and getting feedback from other people and being really thoughtful and observing how your clients react. But you're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every day. I do something stupid in this business every day.
Can I share?
Thankfully, yeah, go ahead.
So I just had an offer to purchase accepted on Sunday. And then we had to do a quick, not amendment, we had to do a quick counter offer because I can't even remember what the counter offer was for now off the top of my head. But anyways, I had to do it really quick. And I put one of the buyer's signatures for DocuSign in the wrong spot. I went across instead of up and down, and I turned it in and I didn't even know I had made the mistake. And the listing agent was like, oh, some of the signatures were in the wrong place. And so I just put some arrows to the right place. He's like, it looked really tacky, but that's okay. And I'm like, well, now I will never do that again.
Yeah, those sorts of mistakes happen all the time. And it's how you recover. It's how the other agent responds. In my experience, most of the time they're pretty forgiving and have made those mistakes themselves, right? Like we've all been there. There's an old saying that Joni was saying to me the other day. She's like, you haven't been in real estate until you've had to buy a water softener because you find out it was rented, or, you know, like you missed something. Like mistakes are going to happen. And ultimately it's about that recovery. It's about what you learn from it. It's about not making that mistake again. And realizing that a lot of the mistakes we make, especially when it comes to contracts, is just slowing down for a minute and looking over it one more time. And I fall into this all the time. I'm like, let's go. Everything's time sensitive. I just want to buzz through this. I have the freaking contract memorized, like just get it done. But I still force myself, I build into my routine 3 different times. I have to review every detail of the offer before I send it, because there's nothing more embarrassing than sending something in and they're like, this doesn't make sense in your offer. So yes, you will make mistakes, especially when you're new and there's things you don't even know that was a mistake. But it's really about knowing that that's going to happen, recognizing that's going to happen. It's about the recovery. It's about learning from it, not making that mistake again. So this is going to happen. This is going to happen. You're not always going to look perfect, right? I think this is exacerbated by people putting things out on social media and they look so perfect and polished and they never make any mistakes. But who are your favorite people to follow? It's the ones who admit when they make a mistake. It's the ones who laugh at themselves, who figure out what they did wrong, don't make that mistake again, move forward. Embrace that they're not perfect. So it's so important in any business, but especially in this one where you're right there in front of your clients, where this is a lot of money, where you're brand new. And honestly, we don't have to do a whole lot to get a license. So there's going to be mistakes. It's just a matter of doing all you can to avoid those mistakes as much as possible, but also recognizing that some of those things are going to happen and having a plan in place. When I worked in restaurants, that was our biggest thing. Like mistakes are going to happen, things are going to happen. It's all about how we recover, right? Somebody waits forever for their food. Oh my God, their ticket got lost. Something terrible happened. Instead of just being like a total mess about it, it's get back on track. Let's get them their food as soon as possible. And then let's make up for it. Let's send them dessert. Let's check back. Let's make sure that we're making a great experience out of it. That's what it's about. It's the recovery, not the mistake. So do what you can to avoid mistakes, but recognize that they're going to happen, and don't let that stop you from doing your job, right? Like, you've got to get out there. Another thing is the mindset of work hours. And this ties into that committed versus interested. I remember when I first started in this business, I came to an office. It was a different brokerage, and many of the agents there had been in the business for a long time. They'd seen a lot, and they were full of valuable information. And when I first started, more than one person came up to me at some point in my first month and said, just so you know, you're going to have to work a lot of hours. You're going to have to work nights and weekends, and people need you for things last minute. And, we just want to make sure you know, and you're prepared for that. I laughed because I worked in restaurants. So I came from 70 plus hours a week, no boundaries, working all the time. I knew this would be a healthier change for me. But for people who are used to a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, or a 9 to 3, or whatever it is, yes, set those boundaries to protect your outside of work time. Yes, keep your priorities straight. However, recognize that taking off Saturday and Sunday is probably not going to be good for your business unless you get a team together and a showing agent and a set of systems in place right away. You're going to have to work a good amount. You're going to have to work outside of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So figuring out what routine and schedule is going to work for you, and also makes sense with this business, but knowing that that's going to have to happen, and having those conversations with the people in your family and your loved ones to say, I'm dedicated to making this happen. I'm committed. This is going to require me to be working until this time on these days, or it's going to require that I'm working Saturday or Sunday or both, however you figure it out. But recognize that you're not going to be able to squeeze this into a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday successfully, unless you are setting up some sort of team situation. Also, sales swagger. This was another Tom Ferry thing that he said that I thought was interesting. New agents feeling like, oh my God, I don't have anything to back this up. I'm not a salesperson, those sorts of things. At the end of the day, having that ability to friendly persuade someone, to help somebody get what they want, to sell yourself, you've got to have some confidence. And confidence really comes from knowledge and experience, right? So if you're new and you don't have a ton of knowledge or experience, well, what can you do? You can get information. You can sit in our meetings every Tuesday and learn a ton from Charlie's market update. That is more information than most agents have out there. You don't even have to get it together. You just have to sit there and absorb it, right? Look at that information, follow up on it, look into MLS to see further stats. Knowing what the market's doing gives you that swagger that I am the expert, I am the go-to person. So when people ask you things about the market, how's the market? You don't just have to say like, oh my God, it's crazy. Did you see that TikTok video? No, you can say like, interestingly enough, we're actually down versus 2019. Last year was an anomaly because of COVID. So, there is some good signs that the inventory is starting to go up, but we are seeing competition, and here's why: lumber prices, new builds, blah, blah, blah. You are a much more knowledgeable expert than just a casual observer. You're the go-to person. That's the swagger you need for people to be like, oh shoot, they know what they're talking about. I should listen more carefully. And actually, I have somebody who's looking for a home or wants to sell a home, and they want somebody who knows what they're doing. So that sales swagger is really important. From the experience side of things, there are opportunities. I know it's hard to get open houses right now, but do what you can to get into an open house, even if it means, and I think Caitlin did this the other day, go to open houses on a weekend. Don't go to work them. Just go as a secret shopper and just see what it's like, experience it, observe what other people are saying and doing while they're there. What's the agent doing and saying? How is their setup? How do you respond to that? If you were looking to buy a home, do you like that? Does it look ridiculous? Did they not try at all? Are they on their phone the whole time? What are they doing? So that can be very informative. Also, shadowing and observing other agents. Huge. This is huge. You're new, you're non-threatening, you are unknown. Just see who you can follow around. Most agents, especially in our office, are very open to sharing what they do and how they do it. And it doesn't mean you're going to be able to follow them around all day. But if it's like, hey, do you have a showing coming up? Could I just pop in and like experience that? You're going to have to watch the COVID restrictions for those homes, of course. But whatever you can absorb from experience is huge. Go to all your inspections, be there the whole time. Just listen. You're going to learn so much. Those are the sorts of experiences you can get as a new agent. If you don't have your own clients, do that with somebody who has clients. Get whatever you can. The other thing that Tom Ferry recommends, not my favorite thing, but it's not a bad idea, is calling expired or for sale by owner listings, practicing those conversations, dealing with those, people's resistance to what you're trying to sell them, finding out why their listing expired, what the bad experience was that they had with their agent. I mean, don't dig, don't gossip, but just gathering information from people directly can be very useful. So having that sales swagger does not mean you have to wait until you have your own clients. You can use your resources. You can get out there and learn in other ways. The last thing is for mindset is always learning. This is huge. This is huge. The agents I see who've been in the business forever and ever, who you think, they've got it all going together. They can have business forever. The people just flow to their business. They have to not worry about anything. That dries up if they stop learning. If they stop learning and growing, they become obsolete. They can't figure out email. They can't figure out apps. They can't figure out how to reach out to people through social media. They suddenly disappear because what they were doing is no longer valid, is no longer appealing to people. So you've always got to be learning and growing. And that doesn't have to always be real estate stuff. It can be slightly outside of that realm. Understanding, supply chain right now is pretty interesting. Understanding psychology, communication with people, best ways to manage your finances. There are so many things that you can learn that apply to you, to what you do as a business owner, to what you do in real estate, to how you can best serve your clients. So taking a little time every day, 30 minutes a day, just to learn something new is really valuable. And it keeps your brain going. It keeps you in that mode that you're always going to be finding out something new that's going to change the way you see the world, that's going to slightly adjust the way you do your business, that will improve the way that you interact with your clients and serve them. So making sure that you're taking the time to learn all the time is really important. A big part of what I do on a weekly basis is reading books, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos to figure out what else I can learn about how I can better serve people, better teach people, better coach people, be a better community member. All those things are good for you and they're good for your business and your success. If you find, mindset challenging, find a great book about mindset. Read You Are a Badass or listen to the audiobook. It's hilarious. Like things like that are going to always benefit you. So always learning is an important part of your mindset too. The next thing, schedule and routines. Okay, so who here has a planner, a calendar, something they use regularly that keeps them on track? Okay, cool. And how many of you have fallen off that at some point in the last year? Like more than once? Yeah. So having a schedule and a routine is not a perfect thing, but it's the intention behind it. It's the systems you put in place. And at the end of the day, whatever you decide to use or do, it has to be something that you will use or do without too much resistance. It's got to be something that you feel is as natural as possible, that fits with how you live your life, that is appealing to you. You've got to do something that's going to work for you. So looking at what other people are doing with planners or whatever apps, if that works for you, great. But if it doesn't, figure out something that's going to work for you, because it's got to be something you'll do consistently. And you've got to understand that you're going to fall off the horse. You're going to have to get back on. It shouldn't be such a painful thing that you resist so much that you use all your energy up just trying to get yourself to use this schedule and routine, right? So having something on paper for me works. I get way too distracted on my phone. I use a paper planner. Everything goes in my paper planner. And then I have systems that are tech-based to keep track of other things and to keep track of my schedule. That works for me. But figuring out what works for you with your schedule is so big. We've talked about it before. I'm going to talk about it till I'm blue in the face. I can't say it enough. Plan your schedule. Make a block schedule. Put in time for lead generation. Put in time for marketing. Put in time for reaching out to your sphere, for follow-up. Those things are huge. And if you don't schedule them, they won't happen. If you schedule them, it's an appointment. Don't move it or cancel it. Keep that appointment and figure out the times that are going to make the most sense to do that. You've got other priorities. Showings usually happen in the evenings. Don't make your lead generation time on Saturday in the afternoon if that's when so many showings happen. Take a little time to figure it out and then come back to it. Adjust as needed. You're new to this business, so you don't 100% know when certain things usually happen. For me, mornings tend to be the least interrupted. Earlier mornings, pre 10 a.m. So that's when I try to get my most important thing of the day done, uninterrupted. Reaching out to people through social media, phone calls, texts, whatever it is. I usually try to do that late morning or mid-afternoon when people typically are highly distracted at work or maybe take a break, and I'm more likely to reach them. If you want to build in social media time in the evening, that makes sense. Everybody's on their dang phone after dinner, right? So figure out the blocks that make sense, but schedule it, plan it, visit it every day. At the end of the day, how did you do? How did it go? Plan tomorrow, get it on your calendar, make sure you know what your most important thing is for the next day, schedule it and do it. And then at the end of the week, review, plan next week. It sounds really boring and redundant, but you would be blown away by how much more effective you are in your job, in your life, running your business, taking care of your clients, if you actually take the time to set your schedule, to revisit and plan every day, and to complete those tasks that are most important. You will make strides. You will be successful. There's no doubt about it. It sounds so simple, but it's something you have to take the time to really do. Routines are something that makes that even easier. Something that you can set and forget once you've gotten to that point. And most routines, most habits take about 60 days to build. So it's in the MREA, it's in the one thing, building up those routines, it takes a while. It's real encouraging to think about all the many routines that are going to make you spectacular at your job in life. Anybody ever try to start like multiple routines at the same time? How'd that go? Anybody have an experience with that they want to share? No one? All right. Well, I will tell you from my experience, trying to start more than one routine is pretty defeating. I like kind of get one going and then the other one kind of falls off track. And then if I don't do the one, then I'm like, well, forget it. I'm not doing the other one. So give yourself some grace and focus on one routine at a time. It sounds like it's going to take forever to build routines, but they really do kind of link off of each other and give you good momentum. So give yourself a couple of months to build a routine. A really important one of the ones that people write whole books about is your morning routine. So if you don't have a morning routine, figure one out. And it can be different for everybody. Some people have kids, they got to get them off to school, then they do their stuff. Some people get up at 4 a.m. Some people get up at 9. Whatever works for you, figure out that way you're starting your day. Gratitude and building yourself up for the day is a great way to start. Some people like to journal, they listen to something encouraging or funny. It just sets the tone for your day. It's so important. There's a book called The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. It's for real estate agents. They make a miracle morning book, but there's one just for us. and it's short. It's an easy read. It's a story. It's a fictional story. So it's not just a dry instructional book, but it's great. There's a group on Facebook about it. There's the whole thing. Take what you will from that, or, just decide what are the 3 things I need to do in the morning. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to take 3 hours. It can be very simple. For me, I get up, I roll out of bed, I feed my dog, I chug a glass of water, I let my dog outside, I do yoga, I meditate, I get ready for the day, I double check my schedule before I leave. Before I walk out the door, I go phone, keys, watch, planner. Okay, I'm good. That's it. Then my day starts. I listen to something encouraging when I get into the office. That kicks off my day. It's a lot of things. You can just do a few, but having a routine in place is so important. It makes things so much easier. You don't even have to think about it. It sets you on the right track. And a morning routine is a great place to start if you don't have one yet. You can also set routines for things like starting your work day. Okay, I review what I'm responsible for, my top most important things, double check my email, make sure that I'm not gonna, bump into anything along the way, give myself an hour to make my contacts and phone calls for lead generation, and then I'm off and running. Whatever it is, having a workday shutdown is also helpful. If you have a hard time separating yourself from work, shutting down your day, closing it up, reviewing, figuring out what your victories were from the day. What are you going to do tomorrow? Maybe there was a mistake you learned from. What'd you learn from it? What's your schedule tomorrow? Is there anything you need to make sure that it's completed before tomorrow? It's going to take some of that panic and flying by the seat of your pants energy away. And you've got enough of that as a new agent. So why not control what you can, right? Because we know someone's going to call you and be like, I have to see this house right now. And it's going to throw your day off. So have those routines in place. It'll make things so much easier. The other thing is your lead generation routine. Like I said, blocking time for it, making sure that it's not something you cancel. This can be however you want it to be. Tuesday could be social media day, and you just go on, comment on people's stuff, and post something that's interactive, and that's your lead generation for that day. You could have, I'm going to do an open house this weekend. So Thursdays, I'm going to start pushing it out there, and I'm going to contact people directly who live in the neighborhood. I'm going to reach out to my sphere and say, hey, I've got my first open house. I'm so excited. Would you guys come, or would you share this link on Facebook? Whatever it is. But giving yourself themes can be helpful, or just making sure like this is my time every day, every other day. This is my routine. I'm sticking to this for lead generation. And then follow up. This is what separates the successful people from the not successful people in real estate. It's follow-up. It's all about follow-up. The money's in the follow-up. The satisfied clients are in the follow-up. The people who become clients who actually close and then send you more people, that's all about follow-up. So, yay, you talked to somebody. Are you going to do anything after that? Yay, you met a person at an open house. What's next? What's your plan? Having some kind of regular follow-up, a way to check in with people that's a little different each time, something creative. You could set them on a plan. Okay, meet them at an open house. First thing I do is I send them a text message after the open house is over. Made this many people through, sounds like we might have some offers. If you're interested, let me know. And then maybe later that week, gearing up for the next weekend, hey, I found this house that's similar to the one where I met you. If you're interested in seeing it, I'd be happy to talk about it. Or, hey, we talked about that buyer consultation that I offer. Would love to set something up with you this week. Just kind of having something set in place makes it so much easier. You don't have to think about it. And then you have that follow-up set up. Follow up. It's so easy to forget about follow-up, to make excuses, to let things slip. And it's going to happen. I've let things slip. I've not followed up when I should have, but get back on track. Don't give yourself a hard time and beat yourself up. Don't waste your energy on that stuff. Just get back in the swing of it. And the more you set in place, the easier that is. Follow-up is so huge. And if you're just like, oh, shoot, I haven't talked to that person in a while. I wonder what they're up to. And I'm in their neighborhood. Shoot them a text, give them a call, send them a video. Hey, I'm in your neighborhood. Just thought of you. I hope you're doing well. You don't have to salesy sales them. Just check in. just being top of mind, reminding them you exist and this is what you do and you're here for them. That's what it's about. All right. So the next thing is goals and tracking. And we could talk about this in a whole class. But essentially, and I've brought this up before and I'm going to bring it up again and again because it is so, so important. The way that I was able to grow my business quickly is because I set goals. And I didn't just set goals, but I checked in on them regularly. I tweaked them as the year went on. I checked to see where I was to goal at any point in the year or the month or the week. At the end of the day, for me, it was more encouraging to track my goals than it was discouraging. It gave me some momentum. And if you've heard about it before, you've got something in your mind and then suddenly that's all you see, right? So if you're looking at cars you want to buy and you think you're going to buy a Ford truck, then what do you see everywhere you drive? Oh my God, everybody's got Ford trucks. It's so crazy, right? Because whatever you're thinking about, it's there. It's what you see. So if you're thinking about your goal for the year, all I can think about right now is I'm going to help 100 happy clients. Every time I'm out and about, I'm interacting with somebody online, whatever I'm doing, I'm like, are they going to be one of my 100 happy clients this year? Because it's top of mind. It's there. It's in the universe. Believe what you want about manifestation, but that word gets out to the universe. I'm telling you, people know it. You live it, you act it, you breathe it. It's your goal. You're focused on it. If you don't have one and you're like, I'm just going to see what gets thrown at me, just going to see what happens. Like those are the people who either don't make it in the business or barely get by. I don't know. I think I sold 5 houses this year. I think last year, I'm not quite sure. Last year was okay. I don't know. Oh yeah, I got to pay taxes. I forgot about that. Like there's just no tracking. There's no drive. There's no organization. It's not a real business, right? Have goals. They don't have to be huge. If for you, your expenses are X, you've got a partner who also brings money into your relationship and your family, and this is really all you need to make is this X for your expenses, cool. What's your likely average commission check? What does that look like after taxes and your split with Keller Williams? Okay, well, based on that, I need this many sales for the year, which means I have to close with a happy client this many times each month. Cool. If that's a lower goal, fine. It's your goal. That's what it's about. It doesn't matter what other people think about it. It's what you need in your life, right? So if that's your goal, write it down, figure out how to break that down by month. If you know you've got to talk to at least 3 people to make that into a client, then, track your numbers. Okay, I have to talk to this many people per week. And if you're not sure, test it out. Okay, I'm going to try to connect. I think realistically, I can connect with 20 people in a week. Let me try that and see how that goes. It's a little bit of experiment. It's a little bit of, asking around, kind of getting a feel for what people think is realistic. It's, doing a little math, but ultimately, whatever you do is about 90 days out. So whatever you're trying out, give it a couple of months at least to see what sort of return you get. I like the idea of checking in and experimenting a little bit and tweaking. However, consistency is important, and understanding that this business is not immediate. You're not selling somebody a bottle of wine. You're building a relationship, building that trust, reminding them what you do so that when they're ready to buy or sell, that you're their person. And then you're getting the house ready to sell. You're putting it in delayed status. You're building up an audience for showings. You're getting an accepted offer. Then you have to work through the transaction and get to closing. There's nothing immediate about this business. So whatever you're doing, you want more eggs in your nest than are going to hatch. And you want to be consistent about it and understand that it is a little ways out. So having those goals in place helps keep you focused when you feel like, oh my God, I have nothing going on. This is so bad. And then you're like, wait a minute, I have this many happy close clients this year. I have this many contacts. I have this appointment coming up next week. I'm actually doing pretty well. That can be really encouraging, or it can be the kick in the pants you need. So having goals that are realistic, that are broken down to the now, the smaller bites, and that you're tracking so that you can see where you are with your progress is so important. I guarantee you, you'll blow yourself away, figure out a goal that's going to work for you, and then maybe like push it a little further and just see what happens. And if you don't get the goal, fine, you're still going to have a great year, right? If I don't sell 100 homes this year, I'll be bummed, but I'll still have helped a ton of people. And that's really what it's about for me. So, set your goals, remember what they are, build them backwards, track them. When you're tracking them regularly, you can have a little accountability built in if you want. And that's that next piece. And this is a regular check-in with anybody. It's a regular check-in with your partner. It's a regular check-in with another agent, just holding each other accountable. You said, this is what you're going to do last week. This is how many people you needed to contact. This is how many appointments you said you needed to have to get towards your goal. How's that going? Did you make those contacts? Did you have appointments? Did you have setbacks? What were the reasons why it didn't work? What can you control next week that will avoid that or make that better? So having an accountability partner can be great. Having an accountability group can be great. Setting up a 20-minute call with me can be helpful. Whatever it is. Have you been in that position before where you had a project due for school and the only reason that got done was because it was due tomorrow? And you were like, oh, shoot, I have to turn that in. I'm going to work on that now, right? Those were my meetings with Joan when I was a new agent. Every week I met with Joan on Fridays and it was like, oh my God, I haven't done the thing I said I would do last week. I better do that thing because I'm meeting with Joan. I can't let her down. And then it made me do it, right? That's how I got it done. Because otherwise, you're an independent contractor. You work on your own. You answer to nobody but yourself, right? So if you felt like blowing stuff off or making excuses, you can. You got nobody to answer to. So if you have zero accountability, it is so much harder to motivate yourself to get that stuff done sometimes, right? You had a weekend, you ran around like a maniac, you feel all beat up, you wrote offers that didn't get accepted, and you're like, I'm not doing anything. Okay, fine, but then you're going to make no progress, right? So having an accountability partner, buddy, coach, someone that you have to answer to is really helpful. It keeps you on track. It reminds you what you were supposed to prioritize for the week. And if you got distracted, the day before your accountability is happening, you're probably going to have to refocus, or maybe the day of, oh gosh, I didn't do that thing. I better do that right now. So figure out whatever that is for you. It doesn't have to be an expensive coach. There can be other ways of doing that. We're here as your resources as well. But being accountable to someone else can be helpful when you work on your own. I definitely benefit from that myself. And I have several accountability people for that reason. It keeps me on track and helps me remember what my priorities are. The next thing is role models. And that kind of falls into accountability. Who has a role model now, either for real estate, for your life, for running your own business? Does anybody have role models at this point? I really hope you do.
I do.
Yeah. Awesome.
So mine is, I work with Carla Florence. She's been in the business for, I believe, 7 years, and I'm new. So she's helping me through the beginning stages for sure.
Awesome. Amy, do you find that you kind of emulate what she does, or you find the things that she does or doesn't do and have decided those are things you want to incorporate into your business and how you are as an agent?
Yeah, we're working really close together. So she kind of already had a marketing program in place, and she says you need to pulse, which means you got to keep consistent and send something out every month or every other month. And then if you're not sending something in the mail, then you're putting something on social media. And then our styles kind of align. She likes everything to look really sharp and really professional. So yeah, it's been really helpful.
Awesome. So finding somebody that works similarly to you, that does the kind of business you want to do, that works in an area where you want to work. They don't even necessarily have to be a real estate agent, but having something to aspire to. Do you find, Amy, that kind of pushes you to do better, to make greater strides, to, you feel like you have more direction?
Yeah, because I know, like, what her production is. And so I'm like, well, if I could do half of her production, I'd be like ecstatic. So I'm definitely trying to emulate her work habits. I have a lot more going on than she does. I've got 4 kids and they're all teenagers and she's an empty nester. So I realize that it's different, but
Mhm.
you know, if in a few years my kids are out of the house and I can be where she is, it's definitely a goal of mine.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, when I started, I had several role models. There was an agent who was I considered one of my mentors when I started, who was a family friend. Her name's Nancy Resto. If you ever come across her, her son Jordan, they are delightful, wonderful humans. But one of the things that she does is she just takes things in stride. She is so lovely and upbeat, and just everything runs smoothly because she just, we laugh at the ridiculous things and we handle stuff and we recognize it's not going to be perfect. But the way she handles things is so different than my, like, let's get it done drive. And I sometimes have to pump the brakes and remember, like, this is people. We have to check in with one another. Let's be like easygoing about this. Everyone's looking at me as the driver of this bus. And if I'm freaking out, that's no good. And Nancy's so easygoing and fun to be around. And so that was something that I don't do naturally. And I definitely picked up from her. I definitely asked myself at times, like, hold on, Amanda, take a minute. How would Nancy handle this situation? So you can have role models for different things. It may be something that you do naturally or don't. It may be somebody who's doing the kind of business you want to do. And it's just to say, like, what are they doing? I'm so curious how they handle things, how they see things, how they approach things. And maybe that means you call that person and say, like, I really admire your business. I'd love to have 30 minutes of your time for a phone call or a coffee. And you'd be surprised how willing people are. Spring's a little nuts, I'll warn you, but do what you can to connect with people and ask them questions, or just observe how they're doing business. There are also anti-role models. There are people out there doing things that rub you the wrong way, that you think are unprofessional, that you don't appreciate, and you can take that information too, right? There are people doing things out there that might not be the way you want to do them, or the results they're getting are not the results you want. And that can be just as informative as having something you're striving towards, is to recognize what you don't want to do. It just helps you get a clearer picture of what's realistic. When you're trying to figure out how you're doing this business and what it's going to look like for you in a few years, having somebody who's already there can really clarify things, right? Like, I don't know, is it realistic to sell this many homes? I don't really know. Well, who's doing that kind of production? Look up an MLS, see who's selling homes in the neighborhood where you want to sell homes, see what their social media looks like, see how they interact with people, how they show up to our meetings, whatever it is. Having multiple role models can be great and can really inform how you decide to do things or not do things. And when in doubt, when you feel lost, sometimes just seeing how they're doing things can help. My only caveat to that is, do not compare yourself. And Amy had a perfect example. Like, she recognizes she has 4 kids in high school. Carla doesn't. So comparing herself directly is not fair. And it's so important to remember that, especially when you're looking at social media. You're like, oh my God, this person, they're doing everything so great, and I should be doing that. It just makes me feel bad about myself. And there's nothing productive about that. So if you are looking to role models or anti-role models, make sure that you're not saying, I need to be doing all the things they're doing. Look at it from a perspective of curiosity. What can I take from what this person is doing? What small nugget can I apply to how I'm doing my business? What can I table for later? So not to say I must be exactly like this person, but to say, wow, I really appreciate this about this person. I'd love to figure out how I can incorporate that into how I do my business, how I live my life, how I treat my clients. So be careful with that. But I think it's important to have role models. And there are so many around you, right? They're so accessible through social media, through Zoom calls, through these recordings, through our office. There are lots and lots of opportunities to find people that are doing the business you want to do, or are doing the things that you'd like to strive for, and you can learn from them. So why not do that? That's free. The last thing is marketing. So, like I said at the beginning, we are truly selling ourselves before anything else, right? We need to build that relationship with people. We need to convince them that we are trustworthy professionals who have sales swagger, who know what's going on in the market, who can help them get what they want and treat them well. So it's the first thing we're doing is selling ourselves. That means you have to market yourself. And there are so many opportunities these days to do that for free or very low cost. And consumers out there now don't just want to be sold. You don't need a shiny, flashy brand and a professional commercial to get people to want to work with you, right? In fact, that can turn people off, especially if they already know you and they're like, what are you doing? You can just be yourself. You can reach so many people. You can contact your sphere with one post on social media. You have the ability to do this very easily. So I think it's important to really consider your message, your why, like what is the driving force behind why you're doing this, why you live your life the way you do, what you care the most about. That should drive your marketing. That should come through your genuine message, your personality, who you are, how you're able to help people, what's important to you, why you're a great resource to them. That's the stuff you should be putting out there. Things of meaning that get the message across clearly. That's what you need to do. And you can do that for low cost or no cost. It's really about reminding people that you exist, that you're in real estate, that you're there to help in a non-annoying way, in a way that speaks to your audience and the people you know you'd likely be working with, right? You attract your village, you attract your people. It's all about what you're putting out there. So remembering that it's not just waiting for people to come to you, but it's about getting the word out there. Amy said that Carla is all about pulse, like keep touching people, keep following up, reminding them what you do. There's a way to do that in a non-annoying and genuine way. You have to figure out what your voice is. And maybe you need to find some role models and see how they're doing it. But there's all kinds of free info out there. Just looking on Instagram or Facebook. How are other agents doing this? What are they putting out there? And again, don't compare yourself and beat yourself up, but take a nugget from what they're doing or make a plan to put some marketing in place that's similar and put your own twist on it. But there's all kinds of good info out there and there's all kinds of ways to market yourself. And of course, then when you have listings, marketing your listing, marketing the information that you have, what's going on with the current real estate market. These sorts of things are what make you an expert in people's eyes, trustworthy, someone they want to work with, someone who's fun to work with, someone who knows what they're doing. And you can do a lot of that stuff without having actually done any transactions, to be honest. You can gather all kinds of information from other people's experiences and, doing your due diligence with these other things, learning every day, making sure you understand the market. So you've got your sales swagger, having control of your schedule. These things are what make you a professional. These things are what make you confident. And you can get that message across to the people that you're trying to reach. And that will build momentum, that will attract people to you. It will help you get clients and you will do business. You will hit those goals if you write them, if you make them, if you check in on them, if you're held accountable to them, they will happen. But those are the things that you need to be very consciously doing to ensure that you are successful in this business. Waiting around for things to come your way, having excuses about what's happening in the market or what another agent did or what a client did or didn't do is not going to get you where you need to go. So remember, it's about your mindset. It's about your schedule and routines. You better have goals set. You better be tracking them and checking in on them and be accountable to them, however that works for you. Nearly all of this stuff is free, by the way. So being a new agent, there's no excuse if you can't afford something. There are pretty much free resources for all of this. Having role models and anti-role models and remembering to market. That's really the key. It seems so simple. It's a lot of stuff to cover, but at the end of the day, you could fill your week with blocks for all of these things. And if you're doing these things consistently, if you're doing your due diligence, if you're learning from your mistakes, if you're pushing forward because you're committed and not just interested, it'll start to happen. But remember, it's like a 90, 120-day turnaround on some of this stuff. So you've got to be consistent and stick with it, not get discouraged, and stay focused. And you will start to see business flowing, even in this crazy market. There is room for all of us. There are only 10% of us that do 90% of the business. There are only 13% of new agents that make it. So be one of those people. Make the effort, give it your all. You decided you wanted to do this, so give it a really concerted, focused effort, and you will start to see business happening. Any last thoughts? Are you going to do some of these things? Anything from today that was like an aha that you hadn't thought about, or you're definitely going to apply to your next week? Mindset, Grady, awesome. So huge. Anybody else? Natalie, morning routine. Awesome. Really good. I highly recommend that book, or at least the Focus on This podcast does a good one about morning routine too. It's like a 30-minute podcast. It's really easy. Anna, role models. Awesome. I feel like people forget that, or they like are embarrassed to have role models. Like, we're adults now. We don't need people to look up to. No, role models are great. I have lots of them. Some of them know they are, some of them don't. Anybody else? Meditate. That's great. Whatever you decide to do, pick one thing, give yourself a week or two to like get it figured out, and then, focus on that. Build that routine. It takes 60 days to build a routine. So patience is really important with all of this stuff. Give yourself a little grace. You're going to make mistakes. Yeah.
So it says in the comments that someone loves your social media. Are you with a team, or how do I find you on social media?
I am a team lead. I just started a team at the end of last year. So it's a Key Home is our team, Key Home. We're on Instagram and Facebook. I will admit I am in charge of that, and I haven't done a whole lot of it lately because I've been real busy. So I had to reprioritize. But my personal Instagram is Amanda Sells Homes MKE. And I'll put it on here. Sells Homes MKE. That's my Instagram. And then I'm just myself on Facebook. I also have a Key Home team on Facebook and Instagram. I think it's a Key Home or Key Home. We just started it, so it's a little new to me. Grady, yes, I find a combination of Facebook and Instagram work for me because I have different audiences on both. I do a lot of live videos on Facebook, and people love live video tours of houses and condos. So I continue to do that. Instagram, it's a different audience. I connect with different people in a different way. I find them both to be useful resources. I got onto Instagram about 3 or 4 years ago. I decided that was like the next thing that was going to make sense for my audience. And that has been true. I have gotten business through Instagram. I'm debating about TikTok. I don't know. I'm playing around with Reels right now. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to do TikTok or not. I need to be careful because I get sucked into that stuff and then I doom scroll, and I don't have time for that. Yeah, we should do another. We did a panel not too long ago, right before COVID, with social media. That was great with a few agents. So maybe that's something we should do again soon. Cool. Well, I hope you take one great nugget from today and actually put it into practice. This is a lot to consider, but if you make this your roadmap for your year, and you come back to it and kind of pick something up on a monthly or quarterly basis, I think you will see results. You will find that you have a clear path, something to focus on. A lot of the other stuff we're responsible for is just noise. There's all kinds of things I haven't even touched yet or have barely done, and I'm still doing a ton of business. So don't feel like you have to have every single thing nailed down before you can be a successful agent. That's not true. It comes down to these things. So just come back to this. That's really what's going to get you where you need to go. The rest of it is, using your resources, making sure you understand contracts and know them well. All those little bits and pieces, day-to-day things. But this is the big stuff to focus on. So I hope you found this helpful. I wish you a wonderful week, a successful week in real estate, whatever that means for you. And remember, you can text me to set up an accountability call for 20 minutes, just so that you have that deadline to get something done and you're tracking your goals. I highly encourage you to do that as well. I'll put my number in the chat. Just text me and we'll set something up. All right. Thanks everybody for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.